Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine. We're right here in the city of Memphis. It's in the county sheriff. It's in the state of Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday morning, July the 30th, 2023. The time is 9:05 a.m. First, say thank you to my family, my support for your continued courage support. I'm continuing to keep myself employed in the Memphis tri-state area, continue to further my education, Monroe College online, continue to pursue my social be study, being administrative, contract, marketing, present time, take a break from going to school in the very near future. I'm going to go back to Monroe College online. I'm continuing to pursue my associate degree in study, being administrative, contract, and marketing. Now, I'm going to start my Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine. I live right here in the city of Memphis. It's in the county sheriff. It's in the state of Tennessee. Today's date is Sunday morning, July the 30th, 2023. The time 9:07 a.m. First, I'm gonna say thank you to my family, my support for your continued courage support. Continue to keep myself employed in the Memphis tri-state area. Continue to further my education, Monroe College online. Continue to pursue my social be study, being administrative, contract, marketing, present time. Took a break and going to school in the very near future. I'm gonna go back to Monroe College online. Continue to pursue my social be study, being administrative, contract, marketing. Excuse. Now, what you see in front of you is anti-gang, anti-Gnostic, anti-hazing. Also, adversus heresies, translated mean against heresies. Saint Athanasius, the Bishop of Alexandria, and Saint Ignatius, the Bishop of Antioch. Together they wrote a 5-volume book refuting Gnosticism, proving that Gnosticism was a heresy. Also, Saint Athanasius, the Bishop of Alexandria, in the year 367 AD, in his 39th festal letter, Easter letter, banned all non-Christian writing. All that Gnostic theologian writing was banned. Saint Athanasius, Bishop of Alexandria, together with all the other bishops in the Catholic Church, they went around and collected all that Gnostic theologian writing and tried to destroy it all. But a person or persons took some copies of that Gnostic theologian writing, wrapped it in some papyrus paper, and put it in a jar and buried it in Nagamata, Egypt. In 1945, little farm boy was outside playing and found a jar in Nagamata, Egypt. He didn't know what he had found. He was just outside playing. So he gave what he found to his father, who was a farmer. He didn't know what his son had found either. Eventually, the scholars at these colleges and universities around the world, the sororities and the fraternities, they found out about it, that there was some Gnostic theologian writing, so they took it to use and misuse to victimize innocent men, women, and children, to victimize the dogs and the cats, the puppies and the kittens, to try to destroy themselves as well as any and everything else in the universe. They're trying to destroy wildlife, nature, and the environment. They're trying to destroy the outer space by going out in space. Also, Saint Epiphanius of Salome, the Bishop of Cyprus, wrote a 3-volume book titled Panoreum Greek, Panoreum Latin, translated mean bread basket. The scholars have also said that Saint Epiphanius of Salome, Bishop of Cyprus, 3-volume book is also adversus heresies, against heresies. esoteric, and exoteric. Esoteric and exoteric. Esoteric. Break it down to syllables. S-O-Ter-ic. Esoteric. Break it down to syllables. S-O-Ter-ic. Exoteric. Break it down to syllables. X-O-Ter-ic. Exoteric. Break it down to syllables. X-O-Ter-ic. Rejecting knowledge. Rejecting knowledge. Rejecting knowledge. Rejecting knowledge. The Almighty, Vice Lord, Four Corner Hustle. The Almighty, Black Prince Stone. The Almighty, Black Disciple, Popping. The Almighty, Mickey Cole, Cracking. The Almighty Bluefin, Black Disciple, the Black Disciple. The Lord, Stone Disciple. 7-Eleven, G Killer. Gangster Disciple, Killer. Glazed Donut Killer. Goofy Killer. Now, today's Sunday morning. Make my video and everything. But like I said, this day Sunday morning, July the 30th, 2023. And so, wanna always, as I said in my previous video, always acknowledge, wanna always recognize the dirty sheets and the wailing sheepers. Because of that Nag-Hammadi library being found by the little farm boy in Nag-Hammadi, Egypt, some leftover Gnostic theologian writing, and because of that, and then these so-called, in all these colleges and universities around the world, the people in academia, the people with the associate degrees, bachelor degrees, master degrees, PhDs, they use and misuse the information. First, they want to destroy themselves. They want to be self-destructive. And then they want to just be destructive in general. They want to destroy, victimize innocent men, women, and children. They want to destroy all the dogs and the cats. The puppies and the kittens that you see the YouTube videos. You don't see how people are intentionally trying to victimize the dogs and the cats. They are. They're trying to destroy wildlife, trying to destroy nature, trying to destroy the environment. All that poaching that's going on. And I'm being realistic. You know as well as I do. All the animals that you hear about on the endangered species list, all these animals that you hear about being killed for whatever reason, the elephants trying to kill them for their tusks, for ivory, trying to kill all the tigers. They only, there's only a few in the zoos around the world. You're trying to kill the tigers. You're trying to kill the lion for his mane. Because his nose. You're trying to make up any kind of excuse just to kill an animal. Except, just to eat. But you're not trying to eat. You just want to kill the tiger because of his stripes. No other reason. You just want to kill the tiger because of his stripes. And all the other animals in the wild. You want to go out there in the boat and try to catch some kind of fish, so you can put them on the wall in your house. And tell everybody how you caught the fish. And got them hanging on the wall. You want to kill the bear and then stuff him. And after you kill the bear, you want to have the bear stuffed and sitting up in your house, a stuffed grizzly bear. And then invite people to your house to look at what you done. You killed a grizzly bear and got him stuffed in your house. See, this is what these idiots do. No sense at all. The pangolins, another little animal that's on the endangered list. It ain't no reason for a lot of animals, for many other animals to be on the endangered list. No reason at all, just some stupid person just want to kill animals. The material world is evil. No, it's not. See, all you do is go around lying. That's all you do is lie. And use violence. Like you gonna prove something. You already, in this day and time, you already is the theology and religious studies department. You ain't proved nothing as of yet. You haven't proved nothing. The Catholic Church, the bishops and the deacons, continue to stand on our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Son of God's Word. And then all the other ones, the Church of Christ and all the rest of them, the so-called Protestants, the Baptists, the Methodists, the Episcopalians, the Presbyterians. It's a long list, The Baptists, all of them. Not going to prove anything. The Church of God in Christ, the Church of God and the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Church of Christ, all the rest of them. Start quoting scripture, verse by verse. The same Holy Bible. The same Holy Bible. Ain't going to just quote the same Holy Bible. Verse, just throwing out verses all day at the conference. They haven't proved nothing. The Church of England. You haven't proved nothing. And you're not going to prove nothing. Absolutely nothing. The material world's evil. The Gnostics. Taking the same Holy Bible. Take the same Holy Bible and do the same doggone thing. Just throwing out verses. Throwing out verses. Not going to prove nothing. The material world's evil. The demiurge. You've been lying the whole time. That's when I've been conservative vice lord in Chicago. They've been lying the whole time about the demiurge. They've been lying the whole time. Plato had already told you about the demiurge that he learned from his teacher, Socrates, way back in BC. Talking about the demiurge. That's what Plato said in his book. Pronunciation, Timaeus or Timaeus. That the demiurge was a good God who desired the world of good. You've been lying the whole time and using violence. The behavior science department, the behavior science department use violence, being violent, using violence. You ain't gonna never prove anything. Talking about some Western mystery tradition. You ain't gonna never prove it. You just lying. Going around having anal sex. Making YouTube videos, having anal sex. Some white man and some white woman. They not even married. Not even married. On camera as well as off camera. Not married. Having anal sex in front of everybody. What you trying to prove? Or what have you proved? Nothing. The material world's evil. Lying. That's all you doing, lying. Then the same white man, he gonna have anal sex with a white man. Then the same white girl, she gonna have anal sex. She gonna have sex with a white girl. The material world's evil. No, it's not. See, this is what the behavior science department, psychology, habitual liars, and being violent, using violence, the anthropology department. Talking about some Western mystery tradition, esotericism, exotericism. This is what the anthropology department going around lying and using violence. See, this what I continue to convey. Conservative vice law in Chicago. The dirty sheets and the willing sheep, they wasn't doing anything wrong. It was what other people had done wrong and was still doing wrong. All these black / African Americans in America. Racism, bigotry, hatred, prejudice. It's not what the dirty sheets and the wailing sheep had done that's wrong as a whole. It's what other people had done that's wrong. That's what's wrong. Then you lie and use violence. That's what's wrong. The dirty sheets and the wailing sheep. That's where the clovers, that's where the imperial chaplains came from. In the 14th Street clovers. The dirty sheets and the wailing sheep. Edwin Pepperlo Perry. Vice Lord. conservative vice lord. Evan Pepperlo Perry and his friend Leonard Calloway. Ernest Wren, Toho, Ralph Bunn, Maurice Miller, Vice Lord, CBL, conservative Vice Lord. Then had this guy called himself gonna break away and start his own gang. This Eugene Brown, he broke off, formed his own gang called the Roman Saints. That's the Nagamine Library. He didn't know what he was talking about. Like a lot of people. He didn't know what he was talking about. Then as time went on, 1964, you started having these vice lord factions. A lot of them. But in that same year, 1964, like I said, you had a lot of factions started in 1964. In that same year, 1964, July, Edwin Perry, Bobby Gore, Alfonso Alford, Leonard Calloway, J.W., they were hanging out on 16th Street, drinking bottles of wine and throwing the bottles into vacant lots of the street. Younger vice lords were coming around that night talking about smashing rival gangs. They were already beaten to a pulp. Some of those gangs were already asking for mercy to take any more punishment, but there was nothing else to do in the neighborhood but be big and bad. This is until the older guys came up with an idea based upon how they were seeing the destruction and damage they had caused in the community. The guys decided on an idea after some debating to go about opening legitimate business and working to better the community. This was a major breakthrough for the vice lords, and on that night, they became conservative vice lords once again. Source: A Nation of Lords, the autobiography of the Vice Lord, 2nd edition. In the year 1965, George T. Sims Jr. was appointed commander of the Fillmore District and the first black commander of that district as well. The older vice lords used his appointment to their advantage to further their new direction. The vice lord leaders wanted to speak with Sims and inform him about their new direction and for suggestions to steer youth away from crime and gang banging. After this, the streets of North Lawndale slowly began to improve. In the year 1966, the vice lord knew call was bringing in more positive attention as they began to work very close with Egyptian Cobras, Black Peace Stone, and black disciples on bettering their communities and putting an end to violence. In the summer of that year, Martin Luther King came to Chicago and stayed in North Lawndale to help protest during the West Side riots of 1966. Martin Luther King planned a march through the mostly white areas of the south side of Chicago in protest. The vice lords, disciples, and stones were ready to march alongside Dr. King, but after a remark was overheard from one of King's men that they didn't need gangbangers to help, Edwin Perry gave one quick signal with his hand, and all the gangs dispersed and withdrew aid. Later that night, Dr. King summoned Edwin Perry, Bobby Gore, and a few other leaders to where he was staying and told them he didn't back that statement about not needing the gang for support. Instead, he expressed that he needed them. And after that, the vice lord and their allies marched alongside Dr. King. After this march, the vice lord started to get major attention that summer as groups were coming to North Lawndale to speak to the vice lord and admire their progress. The deacons of defense, Ram, Act, as an example, came to meet the vice lord, and this is what got the ball rolling. Everyone could come meet the vice lord at the new clubhouse that opened a little early that year at 3655 West 16th Street, 16th and Miller. The older vice lords scrapped all the money they got from hustling over the years and pooled it all together to open this pool room. This became the first legitimate conservative vice lord building in history, and it was made possible by vice lord members' hard-earned money and not government grants, but the grants were soon to come. Source: A Nation of Lords, the autobiography of the vice lord, 2nd edition. Leading up to New Year 1967, Chicago area was sacked with horrible snowstorm and blinding blizzard that left much of the city buried. This blizzard was so bad that cars couldn't even move about in the city, which provided a perfect lawless environment for young vice lords. In the mid-60s, older vice lords struggled to contain the younger lords, and this blizzard made it much worse, and now the young lords had a blast, ripping off one store after another, stealing, looting, and burglarizing the Jewish-owned businesses. Some of the older vice lords even got in on the action. The problem with this was it drew negative attention to the vice lord and drove out more business owners out of the neighborhood even after the winter was over. This brought negative attention, but this negative attention turned into a positive. Now Commander Sims was concerned that the summer of 1967 would become a repeat of the summer of 66. Commander Sims, he arranged a meeting with vice lord leaders to discuss how to prevent chaos. At this meeting will also be David Dowling from Newbury, Massachusetts, of the Trans-Century Corporation, who was sent to 11 cities across the nation to investigate working with impoverished areas and conducting research. Dowling's research was key to the government's decision or other organizations linked to the government granting money to the vice lord. David Dowling moved to North London and lived on these streets among vice lords. Dowling interviewed vice lords all over the neighborhood and helped the CDL form Operation Bootstrap, which was a coalition of CDLs, Egyptian Cobras, and Roman Saints that were geared toward working with West Side major corporations to prevent riots this summer that would cost these companies millions of dollars. These companies bootstrap work with were Sears Roebuck, Ryerson Steel, Illinois Bell, Western Electric, and others. During that summer, vice lords, Cobras, and Saints policed the neighborhood and broke up gang meetings. They even stopped the Black Panthers from creating a plan to destroy businesses and began looting. There were challenges that summer, and scandals rocked the city. In a nation that could have easily triggered more rioting, but the CDL-led Operation Bootstrap stopped the violence because they had a bigger plan in mind. Source: A Nation of Lords, the autobiography of the Vice Lord, 2nd edition. The conservative Vice Lord began to come to a full realization that burning down neighborhoods and fighting the white man was not the way to go anymore. From the years of 1958 to 1964, they violently revolted against society, but now the mindset had changed. Vice Lord realized that fighting the government and white people only brought negative images to not only their organization, but to the black man. It became time to show power in a different way by showing restraint and asking for help from the city and government. Vice Lord wanted to see black-owned businesses, jobs for blacks, clean and safe streets, and they knew that violence was not the answer to achieving these goals. This is mostly long-lost history that is buried and underpublished. A Nation of Lord is an excellent autobiography that tells the whole story about the full Vice Lord intention. But sadly, most of the general public never picked up a copy of this book, so I will continue sharing highlights from the book, blended with my personal knowledge so you, as the reader, can really understand what the Vice Lord Nation were really trying to accomplish here. I strongly recommend A Nation of Lords. But I will cover some major highlights as I already have done so far. The Vice Lord struggle has often been in the same class as the Black Panther or even the Black Peace Stone, but this is different because the Vice Lord had the goal of fully working with the white man and the government, police and sheriff to get a helping hand to rebuild the North Lawndale community and create a sustainable economy. True. They were hoping this model would then spread to the rest of the black ghettos citywide, then eventually help all poor people of all colors. The ultimate failure rests upon the city and the mayor at the time they didn't adhere enough to Vice Lord pleas for assistance with change. Before the summer of 1967, Alderman George Collins promised that if the Vice Lord would keep rides off the streets that summer, he would help CVL open an ice cream parlor. As the summer progressed, not only did Vice Lord prevent rioting, they even set up divisions within themselves that dealt with education, law, order, and justice. On September 11, 1967, Alderman Collins lived up to his promise and incorporated CVL Incorporated as a non-profit organization and began opening a storefront at 16th and Lawndale, which brought the opening of Teen Town later. David Dowling had just submitted his report in November to the Trans Central Corporation, which was a major piece to convince the federal government to give money to CVL Incorporated. They were then trying to get the Rockefeller Foundation to fund the $15,000 Teen Town need to open, which should have been simple due to the fact it didn't need major committee approval. After several negotiations with the YMCA and Bootstrap, the money was at last granted in February of 1968 and Teen Town opened on April 4, 1968. YMCA acted as an auditor for all money CVL will receive to make sure the gang used the money in the place they promised to use it, but CVL leaders need to make it clear that the YMCA was not to get the money direct and then give it to CVL. Also, CVL wanted to assure that Bootstrap was a separate organization and not to get the funds either. Sadly, on the same day, Teen Town opened and the big announcement was to go out. The assassination of Martin Luther King quickly stole the headlines and diverted attention away from this colossal moment. Excuse me. To make matters worse, rioting went on uncontrollably on the west side as everything burned. Vice Lord decided not to partake in the rioting as an organization, but they did nothing to stop it. like they did in the summer of 1967. The store owners never showed any gratitude for the previous summer, so vice lords just stayed out and let it all burn while they protected Teen Town in the pool hall. Rioters only targeted white-owned businesses anyway, and after the riots, white business owners stopped doing business in the area. The vice lord opened a relief station right after the riot at 3720 West 16th Street to pass out food and supplies to hundreds of families affected by the riot. Source: A Nation Lord, the autobiography of the Vice Lord, 2nd edition. In the aftermath of the riot, CVL sent letters to mayors office pleading for assistance with the transformation of the neighborhood and bring more grants to help establish a fully functioning community. These letters were ignored by the mayor. Even though Mayor Daley was not on board, CVL still came across more grant money in the years of 1968 and 1969. Of course, the best form of help would have needed to come from the city itself, but for now, grants from several private and smaller federal programs will have to do. Grants came in from the Field Foundation for $25,000, $100,000, $130,000 from the Ford Foundation, $36,000 from the Department of Labor, and $60,000 from the West Clement Stone. Source: CrimeSceneBlogspot.com. The money was used to open multiple legitimate companies and community centers. The businesses were Teen Town at 3700 West 16th Street, the African Line at 3702 West 16th Street, the House of Lords at 3724 West 16th Street, and one at 3414 West 15th Street. Art and Soul at 3742 West 16th Street. Tasty Freeze at 18th and Pulaski in California and Florida. Simone, which was a business venture with Sammy Davis Jr. for African American women's beauty products. West Side Community Development Center, Management Training Institute, Street Academy, Tenants Rights Action Group, Art and Soul, Youth Organization Unite. Vice Lord took part in programs to beautify the neighborhood, rehabbing buildings, removing trash, and planting gardens. Vice Lord also became educated on tenants' rights, working on a non-for-profit basis as they successfully fought legal battles against crooked landlords, forcing landlords to provide better tenancy and to push back on unfair evictions. Vice Lord was also working to bring more employment within the community so people in the neighborhood didn't have to commute too far away. Places such as out in the suburbs. Having employment locally could also provide more equal pay. Source: A Nation Lord, the autobiography of the Vice Lord, 2nd edition. The late 1960s was also the time when Vice Lords started manifesting in multiple suburbs across the Chicagoland area, as far north as Rockford and as far south as Robbins. Vice Lord also settled into the Austin neighborhood on the west side, which was an all-white community that was not happy to see black families move into the area. Many members of the white community of Austin reacted violently to blacks moving in, and older adults even sicked their kids on young black youth, ordered them to attack. Black youths could hardly move about the neighborhood without scores of white youth bullying them, especially the greaser gangs like the Gaylord, Playboys, Ventures, and Rice Boys. In 1968, Vice Lord arrived among the black families along Cicero Avenue and began recruitment in Austin so black youth could fight back against their attackers. It got to the point in the late 1960s where North Lawndale residents could walk the street wearing jewelry and other valuables without any fear of being attacked. As Vice Lord now not only refrained from violent behavior, against the community. They also acted as the police in the area, making sure residents were safe. Not all vice lords were on board with it, but for the most part, all the North Lawndale CVL were all about this positive direction. And most of the criminal elements in the vice lord exist in other neighborhoods or within other branches of the nation. The newspaper lit up with headlines talking about how the vice lord had changed and were now working toward new goals. And once a gang of killers and hooligans now had become a community organization. Despite all the hard work, there was still an overall negative perception on gangs in general. And this was amplified by Mayor Richard J. Daley, that preached about his war on gangs in 1969. The vice lord was classified as a gang, and the city would take a blanket approach to all gangs, not just some. This was a damaging attitude for the vice lord, as it also clumped vice lord operation in with the operation of the Black P Stone that were under heavy investigation in 1969 for misuse of government funding. It is true that the federal government ended up gathering evidence against the Black P Stone. However, much of the funding of the Stone received was still going to good use, just not all of it. No matter how you look at it, the money filtering to the Stone helped the community and helped some Southside black youth at youth centers were open. Businesses that provided jobs, GED programs, and job training centers helped save many youth on the south side of Chicago. But the illegal endeavors were highlighted above all and became a big part of Mayor Daley's war on gangs. The vice lord were dipping into the same type of funding source as the Stone and were even opening the same type of business, and being a black street gang like the Stone just got them swept under the same category as the Stones. When the investigation began and concluded, CVL Incorporated funding was eventually cut off, and the vice lord was left with nothing, even though not a single vice lord was convicted of an overall conspiracy to use funding for illegal endeavors like the Stone were convicted of. Not only were the vice lords classified with more criminal gangs, they were also a lack of patience with restoring the vice lord the opportunity to keep the West Side streets safe. Federal law enforcement agencies spat out crime stats in the high numbers during the late 1960s, and vice lords were often given no credit for making a difference, even though the conservative vice lords directly were barely contributing to those crime stats by committing crimes. The conservative vice lord had expressed they needed more patience because it would take years for them to help the entire West Side clean up their act, something they couldn't be done in just a year or two. This is why the vice lords expressed their need for more resources in the black community to keep youth distracted with positive activities and to offer better opportunity with recreation and jobs. Many of these letters written to the mayor were unanswered. Mayor Daley himself never visited the vice lord clubhouse despite being invited on multiple occasions. Instead, him and many other government officials wrote off the vice lord as bad company. Other problems with funding were that the city had already allocated funding to the West Side, but every dollar was controlled by city officials that were not in touch with what the community truly needed to rehab itself. CVL Incorporated had all the knowledge of how to spend funding in the best way to provide the maximum effect on the community, but instead, pleas to the city fell on deaf ears. The funding that was received was often mishandled and mismanaged by other groups such as Bootstrap, which caused lots of confusion and frustration. Sometimes funding would fall into the hands of less educated vice lords that mismanaged the funds and paid themselves a salary that didn't fit into the CVL agenda. Once again, this was caused by money going to where it shouldn't, even if it was within CVL. It would go to the wrong part of CVL against CVL leadership's instruction. A big blow to the vice lord was the conviction of CVL leader Bobby Gore on murder charge in November of 1969. Bobby Gore was taken away in handcuffs, accused of murder. He then went through a very brief trial in early 1970 as he was denied continuances. His case was only continued 3 times in the very early months of 1970 as it became very clear the justice system was eager to lock him up and not allow the defense to further investigate and prepare a stronger case. The system was completely set against Bobby, and he was convicted of murder, a murder conviction that would later be overturned in 1981. Source: A Nation of Law, the autobiography of the Vice Lord, 2nd edition. Vice Lord continued to attempt positive change in the years of 1969 through 1973 as reports of members committing violent crime now began to take back over the newspaper in the early 1970s. CVL Incorporated still kept going and kept its charter in the early 1970s. CVLs also worked with Black P. Stone and Black Gangster Disciples with the LSD Coalition, or Lord Stone and Disciples. The LSD Coalition heavily advocated for employment rights for Black Chicagoans until it ended in 1973. Between the year 1964 through 1969, the Vice Lord were mainly only in the newspaper for their positive leadership on the streets and the program they were getting involved in. Only a few times were they in a negative spotlight during these years. The worst case was that of Edward Taylor, a CVL member convicted of murdering a nun in 1969. The execution of Vice Lord had started a murder for hire business in 1969 and a shooting with the Roman Saints in 1966, along with some other small stories, was just about all that made the papers in a negative light in these years. Once Bobby Gore was convicted of murder and David Dolly moved back east and the spotlight was back on the Vice Lord, the Vice Lord began to engage in criminal behavior. Original member and co-founder Leonard Calloway was convicted of murder in 1970, taking down another CVL leader. In 1972, CVL leader Kenneth Doak Parks was convicted of possessing and using stolen U.S. Treasury checks, which was another conviction that really hurt CVL reputation. During the year 1972, the Vice Lord was still working with Egyptian Cobra to prevent war. So there was still positive actions going on from CVL. CVL Incorporated was still active as of 1972. Many of the headlines of Vice Lord committing crimes and murders were carried out by other branches like Unknown Vice Lord, Traveling Vice Lord, and Cicero Vice Lord. But CVL violent crimes were much less, and they still struggled to maintain order as the new heroin epidemic was beginning to take over the west side of Chicago. In these years, youths were beginning to partake in the heroin trade as it was putting money in the pockets of desperate west side youth, and as the influence of CVL Incorporated was slowly fading. In the early 1970s, more youth were getting involved in heroin. Conservative Vice Lords of North Londale did not involve themselves in the heroin trade, but the other branches of the overall Vice Lord nation were getting involved, and this was the years where distinguishing between the different facts became very important. In the year 1973, David Dowley returned to the streets of North Londale to present his new book, A Nation of Lords, which was announced in the newspaper and brought a positive spotlight back. The Vice Lord. The public could now read all about the Vice Lord's story and develop an understanding. There was also a year that the Vice Lord did not show up much in the paper for crimes committed. Some positive leaders were still on the street, especially Alfonso Alfred, who was still president up until March of 1974, when he was shot 3 times near his home. It was at that point that Alfred stepped down and left the area, leaving CBL to fall into a mostly criminal organization once again. The legitimate business the Vice Lord once owned and operated in North London closed down once CBL Incorporated was deactivated. The buildings where these places once were thriving with hope now became depressed, dilapidated buildings just like how they were left before CBL Incorporated bought them in the late 1960s, including the pool room at 3655 West 16th Street that Vice Lord bought with their own hard-earned money in 1966. These buildings were either replaced by businesses that failed a short time later or immediately turned dilapidated and were torn down, leaving much of 16th Street barren. The vacant lots where these buildings existed now became centers of gang activity, garbage dumping, and drug trafficking. Vice Lord fell out of the newspaper in the latter half of the 1970s, with the exception of stories telling all about Vice Lords involved in prison riots and the stabbing and beating of rival disciples. But no good was published or even any bad on the streets. It was as if the Vice Lord were forgotten. The only time the name was brought up at all was to attach fear and gang awareness. The papers stopped reporting because the West Side gang violence became isolated from the rest of the city, and the suburbs, which was society's way of cutting themselves off from the problem. By the time new mayors took over, the Vice Lord had already returned to crime, thus taking away any interest in helping the organization rebuild or helping the West Side rebuild. There have always been older Vice Lords at the ready, waiting to assist with rebuilding and getting things back in a positive direction. But without key support from government and private industry, there could never be anything that could be accomplished even close to significance. This started an attitude that from the younger Vice Lord, that older lords that still preached a positive change in later years were just basically delusional lords that would never get anything done that didn't grasp reality. At this point, the best way for Vice Lord to survive in a depressed land was to sell drugs, especially heroin, which became the lead economic vein for the organization. Just in the Austin community alone, the Vice Lord took a firm grip on the heroin superhighway trade all through the streets of this West Side community. Vice Lords organized their branches into separate mafias, just like how Italian organized crime operates rival syndicates under one La Cosa Nostra entity. The almighty Vice Lord nation is an overall organization divided into these rival families across the West Side that kill each other and fight for to maintain and to conquer territory for the sole purpose of drug profits. This is often seen as necessary because the city and our nation has turned their backs on the Vice Lords and left them to criminal endeavors. In the year 1976, black migration increased in the West Humboldt Park community. Now black families were moving north of Chicago Avenue and west of Pulaski, putting black families closer to the Puerto Rican community. Racial rivalry between blacks and Puerto Ricans became intense as several acts of violence were beginning along racial lines. At Orr High School by Chicago Avenue and Pulaski, there were several incidents of beatings after school. Hispanic gangs like Latin Kings often victimized groups of black youth, and now several other Hispanic gangs were moving to K-Town in the bicentennial year, further intensifying racial conflicts. Black street gangs were mostly unsuccessful in Humboldt Park in the late 60s and early 70s years. During the mid-70s, there wasn't much protection offered from black street gangs in the community until the vice lord arrived in 1976. Conservative vice lord, unknown vice lord, traveling vice lord, and insane vice lord began moving into the area south of Chicago Avenue from Sacramento Boulevard to Pulaski Road. Vice lord became the largest defender of the black community. Vice lord would conflict with black gangster disciples that had always resided in the neighborhood, but vice lord had almost as equal of a conflict with Latin Kings. Vice lord would become a permanent part of the West Humboldt Park community over the past several decades and have become heavily invested in this neighborhood. This is how traveling vice lord, mafia insane vice lord, unknown vice lord, and conservative vice lord became so deep on these streets. If you were to stand at the intersection of Chicago Avenue and Pulaski, vice lord dominate the west and south from that intersection. As I have stated before, the vice lord were mainly only in the media about their prison issue. What was not in the media was when the vice lord were key players in the creation of the People Alliance in Statesville Prison in April 1978. A labor strike was organized behind prison walls that was put together by black gangster disciples, Black P. Stone, L. Rukin, Mickey Cobra, Black Soul, and Vice Lord gang members. The Vice Lord and black gangster disciples were especially pivotal in this organization that became known as Folk and People. This assembly effectively reached white and Hispanic gangs and got them involved in a total sit-down to refuse to do labor in the prison until rotten food stopped being served and there was overall better treatment for inmates. The stoppage protest must have been successful because it never made the news. The Folk and People Alliance were organized because these were allies and enemies that need to be organized for this event. However, for this event, all the gangs in prison became allies while this went down. The reason Folk and People needed to be distinguished is so that they understood they were enemy alliances that were coming together for this common good. When the event was over, with Folk and People remained, however, a lasting impression was left that these alliances could always come together and negotiate peace and organize wars. The L. Rukins, Black P. Stones, and Vice Lord had a deep history that dates to 1959 when Leonard Calloway and Bobby Gore helped their cousins Jeff Fort and Eugene Harrison organize themselves into Southside gang leaders that eventually created the Black P. Stone Nation. Now these organizations were coming back together to assemble the People Alliance, and the L. Rugans proposed the Vice Lord become part of the Islamic faith and adopt Islamic symbols and bylaws. With this being established, the Vice Lord and L. Rugan were able to assemble this alliance and represent the Islamic side of the People Alliance that Black P. Stone and Mickey Cole would acknowledge as all is well. The People Alliance could also bring more peace within Vice Lord factions as there was some conflict among the factions. The overall adopting the Islamic doctrine brought a spiritual aspect to the Almighty Vice Lord Nation, which provided peaceful spiritual guidance for members to act outside of criminal endeavor. These new Vice Lord doctrines were aimed at preventing violence and bringing new discipline to members. The pyramid was adopted as a new symbol, and each corner of the pyramid would add up to 360 degrees. Just to be clear, though, Vice Lords are not Muslim only. Islamic doctrine was adopted, but not the whole faith. In the year 1979, tensions were building between the L. Rugan and the Black P. Stone after the split happened in 1976. Each organization was being created or discredited were being credited or discredited for actions they did or didn't commit as law enforcement and the public pinned certain actions on one group or another. When the other group was the actual perpetrator. This caused the El Ruger to declare law over Black P. Stone and Black P. Stone factions that meant no one was to claim Stone or there would be dire consequence. This was a time when Black P. Stone numbers were at a lower point on the south side than rival disciples Mickey Cole and El Ruger. Therefore, Black P. Stone members connected with conservative vice lord from the west side of Chicago. Black P. Stone members, conservative vice lord and Four Corner Hustle put together a robbery gang called the Pistoleros. This group began congregating meeting in the Outgale Garden Project located in the Riverdale neighborhood on the far south side. Much of the group had recently migrated from the west side and had taken up residence in the Outgale Garden Project in 1979. And this is how they connected with the Black P. Stones and the project. The gang launched two major holdups at the Oriental Theater in downtown Chicago and at the Rose Theater located at 79th and Rose in the Greater Grand Crossing neighborhood. After these stick-ups in 1979 and 1980, the conservative vice lord were able to establish a section on the south side in the Pockettown area of the Greater Grand Crossing neighborhood as a result of Black P. Stone flipping to CBL to avoid the sanctions by the El Ruger. This was a way for the old Black P. Stone to keep operations going under the guise of CBL. CBL became established in the 73rd and Stony Island area. Four Corner Hustlers were able to land on this same turf and flip over Black P. Stone as well. Eventually, war would break out between CBLs and Black P. Stone, and CBL robbed and shot down many Stone, causing a big war in the 1980s. CBL withdrew from Pockettown but opened several other sections from there all over the south side in the 1980s, like the infamous London Town CBL at 101st and Cottage Grove, and then throughout the Roseland Mart Park and Riverdale Outgale Garden area. CBL also opened in the Lawndale Garden Project in the Little Village community and in West Inglewood, Auburn, Gresham, South Chicago, and Midway Airport area. They include a strong build-up in the LeClaire Courts project alongside Four Corner Hustle and Black P. Stone. Traveling Vice Lord also settled in the Outgale Garden and Insane Vice Lord settled in the Greater Grand Crossing Pockettown area as well. Insane Vice Lord were the second factor to settle on the south side of the city. Well, now, That's a good, you know, to put that information in the minds of the people. Just like I said, say a book. But you know, when you read about these time periods, 1960s, the 1950s and 1960s, the vice lord were doing it, the old heads. And then you had the old heads in the 70s. Then you get to the 80s, you know, and you know all this stuff about this nut, this nobody named Larry Hoover. I want to say this. I want to make this clear right now. See, all that was going on when they were putting it down, and the vice lord was beating people to a bloody pulp and all that. See, you don't get no credit. You don't get no credit. None whatsoever. There were numerous attempts on this Larry Hoover, on his life, and this so-called supreme gangster nonsense. Like I said, you don't get no credit. You ain't nobody. You ain't accomplished anything. You ain't did nothing. You know. See, by the time you got to the 1960s, the Nagamata Library was found in 1945. In 1945. The dirty sheets and the wailing sheep. That's who get credit. The dirty sheets and the wailing sheep. They're going to always be acknowledged and recognized for the contributions that they made to civil rights and human rights. They're going to always get the credit for doing what's right by all people. Not just black people, to all people. There were numerous attempts to kill this so-called Larry Hoover. Numerous attempts on his life. And when you talk about that time period, see, this is how people like him thought they can get over. But it wasn't just him. Them supreme gangsters, see, there's a lot of people who do things and during that period of time. When you talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. coming to Chicago, and you hear about some guy, you hear somebody make a statement talking about they ain't need these gangbangers. See, there's a lot of people during the 1960s, when they started talking about this Nagamata Library, it was a lot of black people, not just white people, who did the same. They tried to use and misuse the Nagamata Library. See? And so, when you talk about this supreme gangster, that's where a lot of that came from. It came from people outside the city of Chicago, coming up to the city of Chicago, looking for any dumb, blind, deaf, and dumb field house nigga that they can mislead. Because that's all you've done is mislead a lot of black/African Americans who didn't have no education, who didn't have any quality education. See, the Reconstruction bill after the Civil War and what they tried to do with education, they try to give education to these former slaves. And so, like I said, like people like this Larry Hoover, who really, like I said, a blind, deaf, and dumb field house nigga. Straight to the point. Numerous attempts on his life, he didn't die. But people like him, see, all it is the Nagamai Library. The supreme gangster. That's all it is, the Nagamai Library. You're too blind, deaf, and dumb to have sense enough to see that you've been lied to. There's no such thing as a material world being evil. Information had been distorted. Talking about some Gnosticism. See, this is what the behavior science department and see, this is what behavior science deals with. See, when you talk about people, this term, see, when you speak English, when you say gnosis, what do you think that's English? Because it's not. It's not English. It's Greek. Now, just referring to the quick reference, Wikipedia, gnosis is the common Greek noun for knowledge. The term is used among various Hellenistic religions and philosophies. In the Greco-Roman world, it is best known for its implication within Gnosticism, where it signifies a spiritual knowledge or insight into humanity's real nature as divine, leading to the deliverance of the divine spark within humanity from the constraints of earthly existence. A lie. See, when you deal with people, see, this is what the behavior science department and also theology and religious studies. Behavior science. Let me click over there. Let me go back over here. Let me click. Now, behavioral science explore the cognitive processes within organisms and the behavioral interactions between organisms in the natural world. Now, examples of behavioral sciences include psychology, psychobiology, anthropology, economics, and cognitive sciences. Now let me click over there to cognitive science. Now, cognitive science is the interdisciplinary scientific study of the mind and its processes with input from linguistics, psychology, neuroscience, philosophy, computer science, artificial intelligence, and anthropology. It examines the nature, the tasks, and the functions of cognition in a broad sense. Cognitive scientists study intelligence and behavior with a focus on how nervous systems represent, process, and transform information. Mental faculties of concern to cognitive scientists include language, perception, memory, attention, reasoning, and emotion. To understand these faculties, cognitive scientists borrow from fields such as linguistics, psychology, artificial intelligence, philosophy, neuroscience, and anthropology. So, let me click back over here to gnosis again. Gnosis is the common Greek noun for knowledge. The term was used among various Hellenistic religions and philosophers. In the Greco-Roman world, it is best known for its implication within Gnosticism, where it signifies spiritual knowledge or insight into humanity, real nature is divine, leading to the deliverance of divine spark within humanity from the constraints of earthly existence. So, when you lie, like the Gnostics be doing, gonna be severe consequences and repercussions. Severe consequences and repercussions. Because that's what you be doing, lying. That's what you be doing, lying. You saying something about some demiurge, and that's something that went way back. Before the first century, back in BC. Before Christ. And what you said was a lie. And then when it come down to it, you keep bringing up stuff about one small group of people, but it's people all over the world. See, this is when you get into behavior science and how the anthropologists, they go all over the world. They go all over the world. See, what you try to do is use violence to impose these lies upon any and everybody. You use violence. You ain't talking about nothing. Talking about some knowledge. You ain't talking about nothing. Absolutely nothing. The material world. You ain't talking about anything. The anthropologists go all over the world. Behavior science. Now I'm going to click over to theology and religious studies. Again, go to the quick reference. Now, theology is the systematic study of the nature of the divine, or more broadly, of religious beliefs. It is taught as an academic discipline, typically in universities and seminaries. Now, when it comes to religious studies, in some contemporary context, a distinction is made between theology, which is seen as involving some level of commitment to the claims of the religious tradition, being studied, and religious studies, which by contrast is normally seen as requiring that the question of the truth or falsehood of the religious tradition studied be kept outside its field. Religious studies involve the study of historical or contemporary practices, or of those traditions, ideas using intellectual tools and frameworks that are not themselves specifically tied to any religious tradition and that are normally understood to be neutral or secular. In context where religious studies in this sense is the primary form of study are likely to include anthropology of religion, comparative religion, history of religion, philosophy of religion, psychology of religion, sociology of religion. So let me click over there. Click over to religious studies. Religious studies, also known as the study of religion, is an academic field devoted to research into religious beliefs, behaviors, and institutions. It describes, compares, interprets, and explains religion, emphasizing systematic, historically based, and cross-cultural perspectives. While theology attempts to understand the transcendent or supernatural according to traditional religious accounts, religious studies takes a more scientific and objective approach, independent of any particular religious viewpoint. Religious studies thus draws upon multiple academic disciplines and methodologies that include anthropology, sociology, psychology, philosophy, and history of religion. So when it comes to the dirty sheep and the wailing sheep, they ain't do nothing wrong. It was what the so-called people in academia at colleges and universities around the world, they used and misused the Nag Hammadi library. A lot of black / African Americans here in the United States of America, as well as just around the world, who've been oppressed by bigotry, hatred, prejudice, racism, they tried to take this so-called information about gods, as a weapon of mass destruction. So the dirty sheiks and the wedding sheepers don't always be acknowledged and recognized for their contribution to civil rights, human rights, conservative vice law incorporated gonna be revitalized. Bootstrap being revitalized. The old heads. Young Pepper Perry, Alfonso Alpha, Albert Gore, Bobby Gore, and all the old heads. Leonard Calloway, Ren, Toho. They're not going to be forgotten. You're not going to be forgotten. Buying and selling dope. That's not going to be the way. Education is key. And it's not a secret how those who want to continue to oppress, try to deny black/African Americans, people, African people, Niger Congo, education. Knowledge yields power. The oppressor didn't want those who were being oppressed to have knowledge. And if it was any knowledge that you got, it was distorted. Just like the Nagamon Library. Going all around the United States of America in these depressed communities. Lying about the demiurge. But you got the information. But they lied. And use violence. Use violence. Not saying that it make you smart to use violence. Because what happens is this. When you use violence, that don't mean that the person that you're using violence, won't fight back. Violence begets violence. That's the reason why you see a lot of people trying to run and hide. Because violence begets violence. That's what violence begets violence. You know? And so, but I did that reading because I want to make sure when I do my video, I intentionally did that. I want to be able to read about the vice lord and leave it on my video. Because I want to make sure that the conservative vice lords in Chicago, see, when people be going around the city of Memphis, in the state of Tennessee, in other states, and when I leave my video, I want to make sure that the conservative vice lord always hear that they've been lying the whole time about the Nagamon library. That's what you did. And see, the dirty sheets and the willing sheep, they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. So when it comes to all this gangster disciple, this supreme gangster mess is in Chicago, in the state of Illinois, as well as outside of the state of Illinois. And when it comes to this blood gang out there in Los Angeles, California, and that Crip gang, the imitators. See, it ain't nothing for the conservative vice lord to be worried about. You know what I'm saying? Because they lying. They lying. As well as the factions. See, when you know the truth, all this stuff about a faction, you ain't got nothing to say about no faction being right. Because the dirty sheets and the wedding sheep didn't do anything wrong. You don't have nothing to say. Nobody got anything to say. The dirty sheets and the wedding sheep didn't do anything wrong. They're talking about some damn supreme gangster. The dirty sheets and the wedding sheep didn't do anything wrong. You're going to get dealt with. Send them straight to the point. Go kill your ass. G killer. Goofy killer. Gangster disciple killer. Glazed donut killer. GDK. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. I'm talking about it's going to really be that way. Because your ass ain't gonna never, ever try to take and talking about you don't use and misuse the Nagamon library or anything else. Never. You ain't gonna never get away. Never. Inside the state of Illinois, outside the state of Illinois, you ain't gonna never get away. Never. And talking about some damn Crip gang, blood gang, never get away. You ain't gonna never get away. It seems like that right now. Over a period of time, been going around outside the city of Los Angeles, trying to put people in that Crip gang, that blood gang, especially damn hoes. But just like I said, when it comes to being violent, and when your ass got to stand up, you're going to see if these hoes going to stand up. Because I'm walking around right now in the city of Memphis. And goddamn it, I tell you right now, they ain't going to stand up. The only reason I'm walking around trying to stay calm, cool, and collect is because the police. That's the only reason. You ain't going to stand up. So keep that damn shit to yourself. Because you ain't saying nothing to me. Conservative Vice Lord Incorporated. It's going to be revitalized. Bootstrap. It's going to be revitalized. Man. Man. Conservative Vice Lord be walking around, and Vice Lord faction be walking around in Chicago, and then all this stuff about the folks and my people, all this stuff. And OG be up there, in Chicago and everything. And it's something about the human body that we just had to deal with. You had to come, you had to accept that trying to live is a constant fight. Trying to live is a constant fight. I just, just like I had this little head cold, here it is summertime. It's summertime and out of nowhere, then all of a sudden you get a cold. And you be saying this, damn, how I get a cold? It just don't seem normal. Because we think of the cold and flu season being during the cold months. When in the time of year when it's cold, with the fall, when the fall come in, fall, then winter time. Fall comes September, late September, October, November. And then winter time comes, I think early December, January, February. So them the months when you usually get the cold and flu. You miss off work. They did all kind of studies talking about, during that period of time. That's the time of the year when most people, miss work, be home sick. Because it's a constant fight just to live. And it is. You had to come to a realization that it's something trying to kill your ass all day, every day. I mean, I'm serious. And I mean, it's all kind of stuff that try to kill you all day, every day. Bacteria, fungus, viruses. This all day, every day that you live is trying to kill your ass. It's serious. It ain't got, think about it. It ain't got to the point you got to have antibacterial soap. If you don't, the bacteria gonna kill your ass. It's just serious, man. You got to have dishwashing liquid to wash your dishes because the bacteria gonna kill your ass. I'm serious. If you don't use antibacterial dishwashing liquid, you're gonna die. I'm serious. It's gonna be some kind of bacteria, some kind of fungus. You get a toenail fungus, it'll kill your ass. Some kind of virus. That way around the summertime, that's really what I had, during the summer. They said something like they got kind of 3 or 4 different kind of viruses. Rhinovirus, that even in the summertime that you can get sick. It'll kill your ass. I mean, it's a constant fight. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that you're trying to live. Because there's something trying to kill your ass. I'm serious. All day, all night. You can't even go to sleep at night. You can't even close your eyes at night. I'm taking Mucinex right now. Because the mucus build up in my lungs trying to kill my ass. All day and night. I'm trying to get it out. I'm coughing. Coughing so hard and mess around and got a headache. You get sick. And it's all day and night. something trying to kill you. A virus, bacteria, fungus. It's something trying to kill you. You know? It's all day, you know. I know the conservative white law in Chicago gonna say the same damn thing, say all day. Here it is summertime. It's hot outside. And it's gonna kill you. You mess around and have heat stroke, heat exhaustion, you know, with all them different health, heat related illnesses. It's gonna kill your ass. It ain't even wintertime. It's gonna kill you. Man, the power went out. When the power went out, I still had some water to drink to keep from dying. But it was something else that gonna kill me. I'm sitting up in the house, and then here it is summertime. The air conditioner went out, and I'm sitting up in the house. I'm sitting up in the house. I'm like, damn, man, I'm about to die. I'm about to die over here, man. They gotta get this air fixed, man. I'm about to die over here. You know? It's always that way. It's something always trying to kill your ass, man. It's all day. It's not other people. It's some kind of bacteria, some kind of fungus trying to kill you, some kind of virus, you know, all day. All night. I'm like, man, will you leave me alone? Damn. You know, it's all day and all night. 24-hour day, 7 days a week. It's something trying to kill my ass, man. All day, man. I'm like, man, will you go on? Leave me alone, man. I'm not bothering you. Just leave me alone. Man, I had to take medicine. I got to take Advils, Tylenols. You know, and then you know the bad thing about it, man? You know the bad thing about it? It fight back. Let's just say you get a headache. And it's trying to kill you. You got a fever. The fever's going to kill you. So what you do? You take something to break the fever. Man, the thing will do, it'll mutate. It'll fight back. You done broke the fever. You thought you broke the fever. Man, next thing you know, man, the fever that came back. What happened? Hell, the fever fought back. It's determined to kill my ass. That's what happened. Cancer. It's all kind of stuff, man. All day, all night. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Trying to live. It ain't that I'm fighting other people. I'm fighting against some bacteria. I'm trying to fight funguses, viruses, hair loss, all that. You know, it's just a never ending fight. You know? Constantly, man. Man, when you going on, leave me alone. Man, I'm not bothering you. I'm not bothering you. Go on somewhere. Try to get the mucus up out of me. I'm like, man, when you gone, leave me alone, man. It's just constantly building up mucus in my body. I take mucination to fight them, and it just fights back. It fights back. You get fungus on your toenail or something like that, man. You get some kind of fungus on your hand, some kind of parasite, you know, and it mutates. It fight back. All kind of autoimmune diseases and stuff. I mean, you fight it. You know, you got cancer. You use chemotherapy. You thought it was gone. It's in remission, and you breathe a sigh of relief. Man, 6 months later, you go back to the doctor. I'm sorry I had to tell you, man, but it came back. What? Man, when you going on? Leave me the hell alone, man. Like that, man. When you leave me the hell alone? I'm not bothering cancer. I didn't do nothing to the cancer. You know what I'm saying? I didn't do nothing to you, man. But you know, and then you get skin irritation. You know, it fight back. I mean, if you use the wrong toilet tissue, you know, skin get irritated. Get skin irritation. Like, man, it's a constant fight just to live. Because it's always some kind of bacteria, some kind of fungus, some kind of parasite, you know, some kind of virus or something trying to kill you. You get your teeth, you got enamel on your teeth or something. Excuse me. You know, and you got tooth decay. It'll kill you. It'll kill you. Mess around and have a cavity. You be trying to pull that tooth out, you're down there kill yourself. Trying to pull that tooth out. It'll kill you. Then it turns into an abscess. See, all these different things, it'll just kill you, man. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's something trying to kill you. You know, some kind of organism trying to kill you all day. And then think about this. You see dead people dead. They died of cancer. Where did they have cancer go? Once you die. What did the bacteria and the fungus and all that, you know? I guess they accomplish the cancer and all that. They accomplish their goal, so they just go in the graveyard with you. Well, hell, how you end up over there with this other guy? He's still living, fighting the same damn cancer. I thought the cancer died when you died. You know? I thought the bacteria that killed this guy, it went to the grave with him. No. It's over there. It's somebody over there. That's the reason why you got to come to buy antibacterial soap to kill the bacteria. You know? Man. It's always something. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week trying to kill my ass, man. What time is it? Oh, okay. Before I end my video, I gotta read this newspaper, man. See, that's the reason why you don't never watch. Don't listen to the lies that they tell on CNN and Fox. Now they might take information and might, you know, like the weather. I mean, you know, information that come in from what they call the atmospheric and oceanic association or something like that, and report the same information that all the other news agencies are reporting. But some information, like the war in Ukraine, they be lying. Now don't get me wrong. Now they'll lie about all kind of other stuff when they do their report. You know, they'll mislead you. CNN and Fox, they'll mislead you. You see your boy Trump then got indicted again. And this time they got him on tape. They got him on tape. Uh-oh. Now look. Now the last time they had some mess up there in Washington with their Watergate stuff, with some tapes and all that. Now they got Trump. Got him on tape. Trying to destroy evidence. He done told some guy down there at Mar-a-Lago, we're going to destroy this stuff. Trying to cover up something. Trying to cover up a crime. Now look. Now we didn't seen this stuff on television before. People try to kill people. You know, people try to kill people to try to cover up a crime. So, you know, this guy here, he gonna try to, I guarantee he gonna try to get a deal out of it. And Trump gonna be walking around, you know, and all his friends and all this, the ones who was over in January 6th, that didn't get indicted. You know, the FBI saw a whole lot of people, and a lot of people, some of them hoes, they didn't get indicted. You know, a a lot of them guys, they end up getting, a lot of them hoes that was out there on January 6th. They was out there with the flag, getting into fights with the Capitol Police and all that. But some of them hoes, they ain't get indicted, But they still walking around. So this guy down here in Mar-a-Lago, he, if he end up dead, so come up dead or shot or hurt, because it's a lot of people, man, that Trump got a lot of supporters and everything, but sometimes you just be in denial, man. I think that's what some people are. They just in denial. Because you couldn't seriously think that this guy needs to be president. I mean, what is it that you think this guy gonna really make this country? I mean, most people in America got a job and got a high school diploma or a GED. Most of the kids got food stamps or some kind of help, and you can't make it sound like you the savior of America. And now look what you already been brought up on all kind of charges for lying and trying to cover up some kind of sex scandal, and now look what happened. Now they got you on tape. Trying to cover up stuff. Man, you done did all kind of conniving, corrupt things. You could never say that. I mean, you can't really honestly say that this guy needs to be the president. Come on now. Come on, man. You can't honestly. I mean, come on, man. You mean to tell me that the Republican Party, you so delusional, that you just constantly trying to push this Trump guy? Man, you just as corrupt as he is. That's all it is. You ain't standing up. You don't really have no, what you call it, family and moral values, your damn self. Because you couldn't honestly, man, see that the FBI then brought up these, and then, they bring up the proof. They prove it. What you gonna do? You gonna kill this guy down here in Mar-a-Lago? You tried to, he already tried to pay off the woman that he had the affair with. He tried to pay her off. That got brought up to try to get hush money. It don't mean that you didn't do it. You just tried to cover it up. You paid the woman hush money to keep her quiet. So I mean, you have to be realistic, man. And then it ain't no real serious issues that you can discuss that most Americans really just sitting around this Trump guy. America not that, the society is not in that way. So the American society is not where you got to have this savior, point of view. Man, it's just, if we don't put this guy in the White House, it's just over. The whole damn country. Now, it's not like that. It's not like that. It's getting to the point where the Republican Party and even the Democrat Party is like a comedy show. It's like a comedy show. Because, be honest, let's be realistic. No, age does not disqualify you. But, you have to ask this question, man. You have to look around. You have to ask the honest question. Why are these people in the party putting people out here See, you know what that says? Is that your agenda is just to say that you's the president. That's what it sounds like. It's not like you really just running for the, on some real issues. But you running for this point because you want to say that you the president. Like Donald, it's like, and be honest, it's like Trump. Here it is, this guy, he used to be a Democrat, then joined the Republican Party, but being being a rich guy with a lot of money, you run for the president yourself. And then he won the election. Then eventually, he lost. But he won the election. So it's going to always be that Donald Trump was the president. He was. And the people that were supporting him, they'll say Donald Trump was the president. Okay. But that's what it sounds like. You run because you want to say that you the president. When you look at the Republican Party and you see the candidates that's running, it's like this big crowd of people that's trying to push Trump. And when you think about America, you think about America, what issue is out there in the Republican Party? You got people in local elections, at the local government. You got people at the state government. And then you got people in the federal government. You mean to tell me you can't find nobody? That all these people got to push Trump? I can't see it. I don't. And then on the other side, the Democratic Party, Joe Biden was the vice president, for President Obama for two terms, 2 times Obama ran and he won. And both times Joe Biden was the vice president. And then he became the president when he ran. Now he's the president. Now you can say he's the president. Would you honestly say that? I don't think I would not say that. Me personally, I would say, not saying that you're a bad president, but I would say, that at the time of your life, like in his time of life, I wouldn't not consider not running. And I don't think that the Democratic Party is really doing what's right. I think the Democratic Party, I'm saying, I don't think it's right for the Democratic Party to say that it's right to encourage Joe Biden to run for a re-election. I think it was wrong. Now, the first time he ran, okay, and then you win. But I think it's not, it's not that important to say that run for it. When you at that age in your life, it's not important. That ain't what you say. You don't say run for a re-election. I don't think it's right. I think it's wrong. That's just my point of view. I think it's wrong. Because I think my point of view is that I think it come a time in your life, man, when you know what I'm saying? It come a time when you have to step, somebody else got to step up and say, man, all the issues that the Democratic Party stand for, and what the agenda that you're trying to, why is it that you're trying to throw Joe Biden out there? It ain't his, it's not just his agenda, but it's, the people's agenda. And I think the people should stand for what's right. I think it's wrong. Me personally, I think it's wrong. See, there come a time when you have to see that it's not. It's not gonna prove anything. It's not gonna prove anything. It don't make you, a loser or anything like Trump. No, but it's the thing when a man get to a point in his life, you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't. You make it sound like I got to do this. Why you got to make a person have to make a choice or something that I got, this is what I got to do. It shouldn't be that way. Just because you won the first time, that's big enough. That's saying a lot. When you won the first time to be the president, that's just like winning the championship. When you won that first time, that's the accomplishment. You've already accomplished what needs to be accomplished to say that you became the president. You already did that. You overcame that hump. But it come a time in a man's life, and you have to really see that people should be stepping up. And then as a president, you can put your backing behind your vice president and say, look, my vice president is good enough to take the reins. Me and the first lady, look, we done did what we gonna do. I became the president, and the Democratic Party and the help the party. Look, it ain't gonna hurt the party if I don't run. But I'm gonna stand behind. I'm gonna put, by me being the president, I'm gonna put the vice president in office. I'm gonna put my support behind my vice president to be the president. Cause at my age, man, look, me and my wife, we got our kids and our grandkids and the dog and the cat and look, we not hurting the party, but we gonna help our party by putting our support behind our vice president, because the vice president is qualified. When I became president, the vice president became vice president and been in office, is gonna be a good president. Cause see, I don't want, what I'm saying, you shouldn't have to do that. You shouldn't make nobody feel like excuse me, like, what I'm saying, like I got to do this. If I don't run, the whole party gonna just fall apart. It shouldn't be that way. You should always have qualified people. Local, state, and federal. You should always have qualified people to run. It's all there is to it. But this whole thing with this Trump, man, that's, like I said, man, the Democrat and Republican Party is like a joke right now. It's comical, man. They comical right now. You know what I mean? It's like a joke. They sitting around here, and then they got all these TV shows and all this. And it's like Saturday Night Live. The Democratic and the Republican Party, it's like Saturday Night Live. They get on television, and they got somebody behind. I ain't gonna say that because the writers on strike right now. So I don't know who's writing stuff for the Democratic Party, Republicans right now, because they on strike. But still, they might be writing their own stuff. But it's like it's like Saturday Night Live right now. The Democratic and Republican Party. You know, one of the biggest things going in the news is the weather and everything, of course. The El Nino. And so, just, the heat. Like I said, it's always something trying to kill my ass. I'm just being serious, man. Heat exhaustion, heat stroke, all kind of stuff. It's trying to kill me. But one of the other things is, still this war in Ukraine. All the taxpayer dollars, being utilized to purchase weapons to give to Ukraine. And so, which I don't agree with, I don't agree. Because you have to realize, you have to be, just being honest. I mean, the war in the Ukraine was started by the people in academia, the sorority and fraternity, going outside the United States of America. See, this is something that goes all the way back to, like, the Cold War, and that's how it got started. And the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Being honest, I mean, there was a time, because all these European people can't get along with each other. This, first of all, they can't get along with each other because this Western mystery tradition, all they do is sit around and argue about a lie. All they do is lie, and then they get to arguing with each other about a damn lie, and then they kill each other. Everybody else around the world, not even around each other, but because of the Europeans. So now you got to have the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And then all this racism and bigotry and prejudice, hatred for other human beings, and not just hatred of human beings. You hate the animals. You hate, you hate all the animals in the wildlife. You hate wildlife and nature. Yeah, you hate the environment. And then the dogs and the cats. You hate them. The North and South Pole. You hate that. You just a crazy person. But this is what this North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and this is what this war in Ukraine is about. About a bunch of criminals who came up with this idea where they can get away with this Gnostic mess. They're trying to find somewhere on this earth where they can find some blind, deaf, and dumb person that'll go along with this gnosis. And then try to use violence to impose excuse me. I told you, the mucus is trying to kill my ass. Well, like I said, it's these criminals. And they trying to take all this gnosis and then use violence to impose this made up lie. Because it's a lie in the first place. Because all this stuff about that demiurge, the demiurge was a good god according to Plato. That's how he was taught. That the demiurge was a good god, designed a world of good. But the Gnostics, they distort the truth. And so these criminals in academia, that's what they do. They go around and try to find any and everybody that they can get to go along. By force or choice, by choice or force. If you choose to go along, okay. But if you don't, they're going to force you to do it. And that's what the war in Ukraine is about. You're trying to force any and everybody around the world to listen to narcissism. Violence begets violence. As you can see, violence begets violence. The war in Ukraine. See, President Putin, he was right. He right. I don't give a damn what Joe Biden say. Because see, I'm going to say this, being the Catholic Church. See, this is what I'm going to say about people like Joe Biden and his wife, the Catholic Church, the bishop and the deacon. Not one time have you heard Joe Biden, who's supposed to be a Catholic, and his wife, supposed to be a Catholic. Not one time have you heard him repeat. Have you seen him have a meeting with the Pope and the bishops and the deacons in the Catholic Church? Not one time. But this is what he want to do. That ain't what the Pope said. That's not what the bishops and the deacons said. Because you got the Roman Catholic Church, you got Eastern Orthodox Catholic Church, you got the Oriental Orthodox Catholic Church. Joe Biden has not had any consultations with the Catholic Church as a whole. And the Pope has already said that he really don't support this war in Ukraine. But you can't fault President Putin for defending Russia. You can't fault Putin. You can't fault President Putin for defending Russia. Because really that's what he was doing, defending Russia. One of the ways to defend is offend. Is to be offensive. Go on the offense. Attack. And that's what President Putin did. That's what the Russians did. They attacked Ukraine to defend Russia. And he's right. He's right. But like I said, not one time on something like this, you should be in consultation with the Catholic Church. And when it comes to that Gnostic, that Gnosis mess, you're not being honest. See, there's another thing I'm going to say about this Gnosis, and it's not. It's what these people that's supposed to be a Catholic doing in the community all around America and around the world. You say you supposed to be a Catholic. Well, the Catholic Church already told, they had already refuted Gnosticism. But what you see people do who's supposed to be a Catholic? Supposed to be a Catholic. You going around trying to impose narcissism on other people your damn self. That's what you doing. You know? But like I said, President Putin was right. to defend Russia, attack Ukraine. He's right. Now they're having a summit, in Russia with the people in Africa. The grain, the situation. But this is just a reality of the war in Ukraine. Because the so-called counteroffensive, CNN and Fox not really showing you that is any success in all the so-called weapons that the United States government and NATO given the Ukraine. They still have not gained any advantage. They haven't accomplished anything. I mean, you get into a skirmish here and there. But overall, the counteroffensive really ain't accomplished nothing. You got a lot of Ukrainians killed or injured. And some guy from America who was a prisoner in Russia and was freed, he called himself going to go over to Ukraine. Now he got hurt. I don't see it, man. But I mean, but it's not making. See, nothing that you're doing is changing the outcome of the war. It's not. And so I was just scrolling, but basically so like I said, it's it ain't the war in the Ukraine is not really being won by the Ukrainians. They are claiming that they fighting But I mean, this war, the war in the Ukraine is about crime. It's about how some criminals in the Ukraine, them oligarchs, got with some people from other parts of the world, like in the United Kingdom and America, people in academia, and instigated a war with the Russians. Now they were thinking that, like they doing now, like the United States government gonna give us all this, weapons, and we gonna win. Delusional. In that it was gonna be this quick victory. But as you can see, it caused a lot of pain and suffering, this war in Ukraine, for a lot of Ukrainians. Look how many people have been displaced. And then look at the people that have been killed. Civilians have been killed. And then look at all the people that's supposedly fighting on the side of the Ukrainians that have been killed or injured. And when you get injured, you don't be the same. I mean, it ain't like you got just a gunshot. I mean, you get explosions and you don't be the same. You done lost an arm, a leg, or both. And then all this stuff about post-traumatic stress. Disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder. That's a serious thing. As you can see in America. I mean, that's a post-traumatic stress disorder. When you talk about United States veterans committing suicide from post-traumatic stress disorder, or not just only committing suicide, but either hurting themselves or hurting somebody else. Post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, civilians can also suffer from. I mean, think about how some of these civilians are. These are Russian missiles hidden in just the war itself. In some places where the war is going on, people suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, so when it comes to this so-called war in Ukraine, things didn't go the way you thought it was going to go. That's reality. Things didn't go. Now look what happened. You lost a lot of territory. And 9 times out of 10, getting it back, that's just out the question. See, it's part of Russia now. You'll be years and years and years down the road. You can just see it coming. You'll be trying to negotiate. 100 years from now, they'll be sitting around trying to negotiate the return of this or that. And, the people in Russia be like, it's Russia. It's Russia now. Get over it. That's the consequences of war. Territory get lost or territory get gained. That's just the consequences of war. And so, I guess, just let it work itself out, President Putin, he continue to stand for Russia, and the United States government and NATO still trying to get weapons to the Ukraine. Well, So I'm gonna get ready to end today's video, and always give thanks. Excuse me. I always give thanks to God for all the blessings and guidance that God provides all with. Thank our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and continue to give thanks for all the blessings. And so I'm gonna get ready to end today's video. And again, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine. I live right here in the city of Memphis, in the county of Shelby, state of Tennessee. Thank all my fans, my support for your continued courage, support, and take care of yourself, and I wish each and every one of you the very best. Esoteric and exoteric. Esoteric and exoteric. Esoteric. Break it down to syllables. S-O-Ter-ic. Esoteric. And break it down to syllables. S-O-Ter-ic. Exoteric. Breaking down the syllables. Exoteric. Exoteric. Break it down to syllables. Exoteric. Rejecting knowledge. Rejecting knowledge. Rejecting knowledge. Rejecting knowledge. Well, got just almost right at 3 hours. So just let it ride on out. Couple more seconds, it'll be 3 hours. So, but see it's sunshine outside today. So after I end my video, I'm just gonna spend the rest of the day trying to relax before I go back to work or something, you know. But Conservative Vice Lord Incorporated, Bootstrap, gonna be revitalized. I'm not just sitting here saying it. You know, it may take a, you know, of course it's gonna take a little time and everything, but of course, but still, the idea that the old heads, you understand, gonna uphold it. Conservative Vice Lord, well, all the factions, and then, you know, Black Prince Stones, Mickey Cobras, all that, you know, the souls, all the souls, you know, the Black Disciples, you know, and then all the rest of them, you know, Satan disciples and the Maniac Latin disciples. See, it all, you know, it's a chain reaction. You know, Latin Kings and Gaylords and then all the rest of them. All this so-called the Simon City Royals. And, you know, it's a chain reaction. You know, it's going to be a chain reaction. You know. You know, you ain't finna choose to be a drug addict over not being a drug addict. It's straight to the point. You ain't finna choose to be a drug addict over not being a drug addict. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's gonna be a chain reaction. You know, you gonna choose. You know, who gonna choose to get raped over not getting raped? Who gonna choose to get murdered over not getting murdered? It's gonna be a chain reaction, man. See, sometimes you got to talk to people that way. Sometimes that's, you know, you have to put it to people that way. Who the hell gonna choose to get raped or not getting raped? Who gonna choose to get murdered or not get murdered? You know? Conservative Vital Law Incorporated. Bootstrap. Being revitalized. You know, the idea that the old heads being revitalized. Being revitalized. And all that stuff about some Gnosticism. Hey, it ain't gonna stand up, man. Hey. Eric walking around. I'm telling you, Eric ain't going. Eric ain't going. I'm telling you ahead of time. Eric ain't going. Eric ain't going. You can go get all the damn sororities. You go get all the damn fraternity. You go get all them sohos and them frat bitches. Eric ain't going. Eric ain't going. It's going to be a bloodbath. I'm telling you what's going to happen. I'm telling you what's going to happen. Ahead of time, you're going to get your ass killed. You're going to get your ass killed. I'm telling you, Eric ain't going to go. I'm telling you, Eric ain't going to go, man. I'm telling you. GD killer. Glazed donut killer. Gangster disciple killer. G killer. Goofy killer. Eric ain't gonna go, man. Ain't gonna go. Till next time, take care of yourself, which each and one of the very best.